rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, all members are present. Approval of the agenda, we have one addition, 7J. Approve easement amendment, Center Graphics. Is there any other changes to the agenda? Council?
Yep, motion to approve with a change.
You have a motion and a second. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Approval of the minutes of the June 20th, 2018 regular meeting. Is there any changes, corrections?
And only to the dollar, well, penny amount, I think, in the
The
consent agenda that wasn't quite
consent
right.
agenda on the schedule. Okay.
Yep.
The numbers didn't work out on the consent agenda, so. Any other changes or comments? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the June 20th, 2018 regular meeting?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dave, second by Heidi. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. This brings us to our public open forum. Is there anyone here that would like to address the council? State your name and address.
My name is Lori Arns. I live here in Sauk Center. My address is 40651 US Highway 71. I am the head coach for the dance team here in Sauk Center. We are building our team. This will be our 4th year. And so we try to come up with some unique fundraising things that we can do for something different that isn't always pizza or whatever. And going through different or multiple towns, we've noticed that towns are letting their schools put their logo, their school logo. So ours would be SC. We went ahead and I've okayed it with Mr. Bergman, our athletic director. So I'm just asking for an okay from you as to able to get businesses to be able to put it on their sidewalks downtown and also on residential driveways. I do have a picture of what it would be. Felling was very gracious and donated the steel template for us, and the money would go towards the dance team, all their costumes, performances, media, and then also, of course, pay for out of expenses for the paint. So, and it is a 2-year. Well, I've contacted other schools, and it is a 2-year thing that it stays. I have it on my driveway, and it is going on the 2nd year, and it's just starting to scrape off right now. So we do it as a white SC, and the cost is $15 for the 1st year, and the second application or touch-up would be $10, and that would be a 2-year thing. So I don't know if you wanted to go ahead and see what it was.
Yeah, you can bring that up.
Lori, these are signs that people can put in their...
Nope, we're going to be painting the logos
Okay.
on their driveway, also downtown businesses.
Okay.
Yep, so this would be going towards all the school teams, not just the dance team. It would go represent the whole team or the whole school of Sauk Center, so.
Okay.
That'd be a purple background on all of them?
No. So, no, that's my printer. It's black, yeah, it's white. So there would be, it's just, the cement that you're seeing is the purple, and the white is the SC.
Oh, okay, so it'd
Yep.
just be the SC.
It'd just be the SC on there as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Be a
Purple would
white
be real
SC.
sharp.
Purple would be sharp, but that's not quite our colors.
It's a little close to Melrose, but.
And I do have to apologize. It does say that it's already pre-approved at the bottom of the thing, so that's just what we had printed out, so.
No. Okay. Well, can't take any action on it tonight because of the, but we can probably take it to operations or.
Well,
have
just
an
to
agenda.
clarify, you're talking about putting this on private property.
Yes.
Or in front of
Or
businesses.
in front of
It'd be,
Well, even the businesses,
It'd
if
be
it's on the city
driveways.
sidewalk, it's not public property, or private property, but,
It'd be city sidewalk uptown,
yes,
right?
city sidewalks, just to show the pride for Sauk Center, we'd be downtown, city sidewalks. Each business can do it. If we only get a couple businesses, that would be great. But yeah, mostly it would be residential driveways.
okay.
Yep.
I don't,
Approximately what size?
residential wouldn't matter.
The
so.
size is, I do have that.
Yep, that is.
Kind of
It says
28 by
28 by
19 and a
19.
half.
Yeah,
Oh,
yep.
okay, all right.
Just a question, more personal than anything.
Yep.
Is that, would that be compatible with asphalt as well as concrete?
Yes, I do have, at the end of my driveway is asphalt.
Okay.
So it looks really good on the asphalt as well as as a sidewalk. I have two of them, so,
Good, that's why I asked. I
yep,
got
cement
asphalt.
or asphalt, yep, yep. It shows up really well, and it's a cement-based paint, so it stays on really well, and we've used a snow blower and scrape it and all that, and we've driven on it for 2 years, and it looks really good.
Okay.
So, like I said, I've gone through multiple towns that have done it with their logo. It looks really sharp, that you're representing the whole team, I mean, all the teams of Sauk Center or their team as well, so.
One of the things that I know sometimes when you paint really thick on the sidewalk or something like that, it gets slippery. I was just wondering if
White
it
is
gets
a-
That'd
wet.
be the only concern, yeah.
I've never
You know.
slipped on my driveway.
Okay.
No, it really, I felt the texture, and you can feel the
Concrete?
texture through it, yeah.
Okay, all
Yep.
right.
So it's, like I said, it's a cement base paint, so we've checked Ace Hardware, and they have it available at Ace, so,
Okay.
Okay.
yep.
That would be the only concern I would have if you put it on a public sidewalk.
Right,
and
it gets
It gets
slippery, yeah.
wet, it gets slippery.
Right.
So,
My hometown actually is one of them that has one of the W on it, and they've had it now for, I think they're on their third year of repainting it for the second year. And theirs is a lot bigger than ours would be, and it's a W, so.
Okay.
Yep.
all right. Well,
Yeah.
let's put this on an agenda, as an agenda item for the next meeting, or you want to go to
I think,
committee? or-
I think that's fine. Can you give us an address where we can go see one?
Yeah, it's my address,
And that would be?
40651 US Highway 71.
Okay.
Just a little out of town, and you won't miss it, you'll see it.
Okay,
Yep.
all right.
All right, I appreciate it, thank
Thanks,
you.
Lori.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the council? Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the council? Seeing no one, our public open forum is now closed. We will now move on to our public hearing. We will recess our regular meeting. We will now bring our public hearing to order. We have a public hearing before us this evening regarding the alley vacation request. It is our intention that everyone has the opportunity to be heard. If you wish to speak, please sign in on the sign-up sheet at the back of the room. The procedure is as follows: presentation by staff, followed by questions of staff. Then we will ask for public input. Raise your hand. When recognized by the mayor, approach the podium and state your name and address for the record. State your comments and position. No one will be allowed to speak a second time until everyone has had a chance to be heard. We will then hear questions for clarification, then public in favor of the proposal, then public speaking against the proposal. After everyone who wishes to speak has had the opportunity to be heard, the hearing will be closed. After closure of the public hearing, the council will deliberate and take action on as appropriate. Members of the audience do not participate in the council's discussion unless a majority of the council concedes to hear additional information or questions. The hearing is now in session. Vicki?
Okay, application has been received from the majority of the property owners abutting a public alley in the plat of Robinson and Mendenhall's for a vacation of that alley. The petition was initiated by the Halverson family. Approval would allow for the settlement of their estate. The alley is 12 feet wide, 320 feet long. It's located in Block 19, so it's adjacent to lots 1 and 2 of that plat. I have given you an attached map, and it's located between Railroad Avenue and 8th Street on the west side of Getty Street. So kind of get into that area, you'll see where it is. The address is 603 Railroad Avenue of the Halverson family, so kind of give you an idea there. The alley was never actually developed, but it does have our big telephone lines back there. The purpose of the request is to remove the encroachment of a garage. You'll see that large white garage, if you were out there, it encroaches about a foot into this alley. And so in order to do a deed or to take care of the title, they can't have that encroachment on there. If we do vacate the alley, one half would go to each side, so one half would go to the Halversons, one half would go to the Pearsons on top of the hill. By giving those 6 feet to the Halversons, that would eliminate that 1 foot encroachment. Because there are phone lines in the alley, Arvig has requested that if it is vacated, a utility easement be retained. That is typical of what we do when we vacate, is that we do retain any utility easements. Also, if we do keep the easement retained in there, we would allow no structure to be permitted over it in the future, so we would have, with the exception of that encroachment, the foundation for the old red barn that used to sit there would have to be removed as well. So it kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking at doing. In the past, alley beyond the end of this one was vacated. If you keep going, and it connects up with Grove Lake Street, but there now is a garage actually sitting on part of that. So you kind of get an idea of what we're looking at doing. They are representatives of the Halversons are here tonight, and to answer any questions that you would have.
Questions?
The restrictions for building on an easement would still be in place?
Yes. So it would be no, I mean, they would gain the extra 6 feet of land, but they wouldn't be able to like build anything on that.
Right.
It's just basically cleaning up language. So, any other questions, concerns?
Oh, it says right here. Also with
Okay. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor or against or need clarification? We'll do all three of them together. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council either in favor, against, or need clarification on what's happening? Okay. You want to come up to the mic, state your name and address?
My name is Kenneth Halverson. I live in St. Cloud. I am handling my dad's estate and trying to get the deed cleared up too, so we can sell the property. We are in the process of getting things straightened out. The cement is there. I'm just going to locate a contractor and get that taken care of. That old shed that got moved over into the driveway is going to be tore down and hauled away and
Okay.
clean up that area.
All right. Otherwise, everything is going smoothly.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any questions of Mr. Alverson? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor, against, or have clarification? Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Any more questions from council or concerns? Okay, our public hearing is now closed. We will now reconvene our regular council meeting. We will take action on this item later tonight. Reports and presentations, bond issue. George?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. George Eilertson from Northland Securities. And in your packets, there's a couple of items relating to an upcoming bond sale. There's an overview report and that hits the highlights, if you will, touches on the structure of the bonds, the security for the bonds, the timing for the bonds, et cetera. And also in your packets, there's what's known as a municipal advisor agreement. First, Mayor, Council, I'll just give a couple highlights of the bond issue itself, and then certainly address any questions you may have. The bond issue, as I'm sure you recognize, is for the North Street and Getty Street projects. And we've structured the bonds along with help from your city staff with a 15-year financing term. And we'll work with your city administrator on the assignment of the city's bond rating. Your underlying bond rating is AA-, which is very strong. And the council had taken previous action at a previous meeting regarding what's known as the credit enhancement program through the state of Minnesota. Because this bond issue or the projects are largely for utility improvements, sewer, water, storm-related improvements, you're able to put an enhancement behind your bond issue, similar to like when schools issue bonds, they're oftentimes issued credit enhanced with the state backing. You can do that for utility projects as well. So again, you had passed a resolution at a previous meeting to enter into that program. What that allows you to do is take your AA- rating and enhance it up 2 notches, if you will, to a AA+. Just lowers your interest rate a little bit, about 0.1% over a 15-year term. And the only additional cost to that, since we'll still have an underlying bond rating, there's the cost associated with that. There was a $500 fee that is an application fee for that program, but that improvement in the bond rating actually benefits the city probably about $30,000 to $35,000 overall interest savings by having a better bond rating associated with that. The bonds themselves, they'll be paid back by about half of the project will be assessed to benefiting property owners, and the balance covered by debt service levy on all taxable property in the city. And the PUC portion, as you probably recognize, is not included in the bond. The PUC is just paying cash for their portion of the project. So this is strictly financing the city portion of the projects. That's a quick overview, Council, hitting some of the high points certainly. As you probably realize, tonight we're not issuing debt, we're simply considering a resolution calling for a future sale. That sale would be August 15th, so at your August 15th City Council meeting. Prior to that, I'll work with Vicki on the assignment of your bond rating. The last week of July, we have the bond rating call, and then that rating would be likely assigned next week in advance of your sale. So the 2 action items a little bit later on in your agenda, one is the municipal advisor agreement, and that's between the city and our firm, Northland Securities. The advisory agreement covers our duties that we have related to the sale. The pre-sale bond duties, such as working on the bond official statement, the marketing documents for the sale, work with your administrator on the bond rating, coordinate all documents with the bond attorneys, and certainly coordinate the sale, and then the closing of the bonds after. So that's the municipal advisor agreement. The second item is the resolution, and really the purpose of that resolution is to set a date. Set a date for the sale of August 15th. So those are the 2 items for you to consider later on, and can certainly address any questions if you have any.
Questions? Concerns? We've gone through this a few times, so.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. 6B, Police Department Monthly Report. Brian?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Activity report for June 2018. Some of the numbers we had 18 alarm calls. We did 31 assists for people. We did 44 business assists. We did 37 assists for other agencies. We had 7 bar crowd control issues. We had 89 citizen contacts. We gave out 15 citations for revoked or suspended driver's license. Gave 6 citations for small amount of marijuana or paraphernalia. Had 2 felony warrant arrests. We had 7 gas no pays. We had 5 intoxicated person calls, 16 medicals, 9 citations for no Minnesota driver's license. We found 6 open doors for businesses. We had 6 accidents. We had 60 special detail work, basically walking through Walmart. We had 30 suspicious calls. We had 7 thefts. We had 4 unwanted person calls, and we had 20 welfare checks. And we gave out 383 verbal warnings. And so we had a total number of calls of 652. So we had a total for the month of 1,035. So we compare that to last year. We were up by calls 192, up for warnings 140, so a total of 332 up. And then if we compare it to last month, we were up 25 for calls and 1 warning down, and so a total of 24. So, yeah, then we had a lot of TZD enforcement, a lot of speed enforcement where we're in the summertime, we started implementing that to work some of the overtime and some of the busy times in our city, so it works pretty good to have that TZD shift to work that and be in town too, to have the extra officers. So been doing a lot of that too. So now we're getting ready for gearing up for Sinclair Lewis Day starting today, so fair next week, so we'll have a couple busy weeks here.
Okay. Questions for Brian?
I notice you've got, you said 15 people for revoked or suspended licenses. So that would mean that they're driving without insurance as well. I
Could be, yeah, most of them are.
Yep. Appreciate you pulling them over.
Yep.
Thank you, Chief.
Just one question, Brian. With the street dance coming up this Saturday, I know it's been a concern the last couple of years as far as the security and everything. Was there a meeting with the establishments uptown?
Yeah, our officers did walk around and have conversations with them. They said they're going to step it up. We're going to try to monitor the entry points and exit points, so
Okay.
See what we can do. Hopefully it'll be better this year.
Okay, that's just one of the things I wanted to know if that was done
Yeah,
or not.
absolutely.
The ones that had contacted me, I told them to call you when they had their group meeting and have somebody there to talk about, and I didn't know if that happened or not,
Yeah,
so.
kind of did it on an individual basis, but,
Okay,
yeah,
all right, sounds good.
yep.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
6C, second quarter ambulance report. Kathy?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm here with the second quarter report for the ambulance. We continue to be active and busy. In April, we had 14 no loads, 2 advanced life support transfers, and 25 basic life support transfers for a total of 81 runs and activities, which compares to 64 last year and 37 from 10 years ago in April. Total billed out for that month for 67 billed calls was just over $73,000. In May, we had 19 no loads, 5 advanced life support transfers, and 21 basic life support transfers for a total of 71 runs or activities. And that compares to 52 from last year and 45 from 10 years ago in April. Oh, I'm sorry, that should be May there, yeah, in May. Total billed out was 52 calls for over $65,000. In June, we had 19 no loads, 7 advanced life support transfers, and 23 basic life support transfers for a total of 80 runs or activities, which compares to 75 last year and 45 10 years ago in the same month. And we billed out a total of 61 calls for over $65,000. Total runs and activities for the year with the corrected year-to-date totals, because apparently my sums didn't go down to the bottom there. So 413 for the year, which compares to 376 for the same time period last year, and 10 years ago, 239. So we're still almost 50% higher than 10 years ago. I have the no loads all listed and counted out where, for when we're getting paged out and not transporting, and it continues to be the crashes is the main one, and lift assists and falls. We respond to assist citizens with that. I have the hospital destinations listed so you can see where we're taking all of our transfers. Second quarter special details and standbys. We had the Cinco de Mayo standby, which was the first annual. So that went well. We had 0 patient contacts there, no issues. We had a mock drill with the fire department and the hospital at the school that was in conjunction with the high school during prom time. So that went very well. And then we had breakfast on the farm in our service area this year where Stearns County puts on the breakfast on the farm. And that was at a residence in our PSAP area. So we responded to that, and we had 1 patient contact while there. It was not transported, just they dealt with 1 person that was injured for something. We did 2 mutual aids going into Melrose area when they were busy and needed assistance. We had used our Lucas 5 times total for the year so far. And of our build-out calls, one of them was a hospital contract build-out where we transported a patient back to a nursing home or their residence for them. And then we had an ALS intercept for our rig failure one time where we had to call Gold Cross on a transfer to finish our transfer for us for a flat tire. So we remain busy. We have one of our busiest times still coming up with the Sinclair Lewis Days and the parade and other parades and the upcoming fair and Night to Unite. Any questions for me?
Questions, concerns? Keep up the good work.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Planning Commission report. Sarah?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. In your packet, you have a copy of the agenda. We had a planning commission meeting on July 10th with a public hearing in regards to garage sales, and that is an action item later on the agenda. And also there was an appeal of my planning decision, and that is also an action item on the agenda. Also, we have a copy of the building permit report for the month of June, and then also the zoning permits for April, May, and June.
Questions? Concerns? Guess not.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Airport Board report.
So the airport board met on Wednesday, July 11th. It was its regular meeting. They meet 6 times a year. The runway rehab project has been completed. They were in and they did the change order that they didn't get done last fall. And that's like a $24,000 project. We had the final punch list review today at 3 o'clock. I was gone at Stearns County at a election training, so I haven't got the report back yet. I anticipate that everything went well according to the engineer, so that would release the retainage. So we should have that final payment for the airport going out soon, and then we can begin the closeout reporting for that project. And the total project was $2.4 million, so we'll be doing that closeout. The entrance roadway grant, as you know, has been approved. And so now, and we had already done the bidding for that, so now we're just waiting for the grant agreement to come through so we can actually have the work done. We're anticipating paving that entrance road in September, and the airport board is talking about perhaps doing a fly-in after that occurs. So then all the airport will be done, and we'll be able to show off the new airport, and if we can round up some pilots to give rides, so we'll watch for that coming up soon. The zoning update grant has been fully executed, so now they will let us begin working on that. We're going to be asking for interested persons to serve on an airport zoning update joint board. This is the county, the city, and the township. So we'll be making a joint board, and we'll be going through that process. We'll be sending out invitations to people that participated with the airport in the past, as well as the county, the city, and the township officials. We did talk about the board vacancy. We do have a board vacancy because Matt Ziniel, as you know, retired, and he was on the board as a representative of Public Works, and they said they would just operate -1 until we have a new supervisor, and then we'll work through that. The Compass Rose was scheduled to be painted in July. It was delayed because of very hot weather, and so it will be painted in mid-August. The paint has already been purchased. It's out there. Stantec was out and established the true north for the compass, and so that'll be the same design as previous. So if you ever want to see what it is, you can go on Google Earth, and it's still there on the Google Earth picture. And also, one of the airport board members suggested that maybe we have some bicycles out there for pilots to use if they want to bike into town. We do have the courtesy car, it's not always available, and it was just something they discussed briefly. I don't know if that'll move forward at all. But that would be all the activity of the airport.
Okay. Questions, comments? Okay, we'll then move on to Public Works report.
This was something you initiated at the last meeting to start having a Public Works report at this meeting. And Matt, I believe, gave the report the first time and his last time, because the next day was his last day. So in the Public Works Department since that time, Warren and I went down and met with the entire crew following that, and kind of as a meeting of everybody, and we had our clipboard and all the issues that we could envision that were outstanding and needed to be completed, just to make sure everything was being covered. Since that time, I've continued to meet with them once a week, usually Tuesday mornings at 6:30, and we talk about all the issues of Public Works, what needs to be done, who's going to be doing different things. Like, mostly this last few weeks, we've been busy getting ready for Sinclair Lewis Days, our part of that, trying to get all the painting done, the crosswalks done, the curbs done, the parking lanes done. So that painting has mostly been done. There's some yellow paint that needs to go on yet, parking lot behind Schaefer's, and I think there's some parking over here by the fire department that's not done yet. The white has all gone down, the white parking on Main. You'll notice that we did not do the crosswalks on Main because MnDOT is coming in and doing a mill and overlay that yet this year. Their Band-Aid to keep it going until 2024 when we have the reconstruct. Otherwise, for Sinclair Lewis Days, we've been doing a lot of mowing, trimming, weed spraying, getting everything ready in Sinclair Lewis Park, getting the parade route swept, getting, all those kinds of things, getting the barricades will be placed. Some barricades went out today, more will go out tomorrow. There's also going to be some extra cleaning that we arranged to happen in the park this weekend after the fireworks, before the Saturday events, just kind of make sure everything is, police the park, look for garbage, clean the bathrooms, because that was one of the things that we talked about last year. Some of the other things that they've been doing up at the arena, they took out that little retaining wall that was falling down between the two ball fields. They kind of sloped that, and I believe that's going to work just fine, just like it is. They're talking about doing some bathroom work. We've had a water break in the campground. The fountain was flooding up here in the park, so all these little things that are happening. But my role to go down and visit with the Public Works every Tuesday morning is more like, these are the things that need to be done, who's taking care of it, and they're doing really good. They're volunteering and stepping up and making sure those items are getting taken care of. And it's also an opportunity for them to tell me what they see needs to be done. So it's working so far. I don't see it as a permanent thing, because we do need somebody to do all the organizing and everything and getting ready for the year. When Matt left, we had everything already in motion, so we're just kind of carrying it out. So it's the rest of the stuff that we aren't having to do right now, so that works out. The timing was actually pretty good for this. A couple other things up on the project, we're looking at putting new street signs where the ones that are all faded when they put the posts back in, and also doing the swing-away mailboxes that we'll be providing to the project. So it's just little things like that. We had the worm thing going on, with the army worms that came through. So all different things that kind of fall under the guise of Public Works, and they've been getting it done, so that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. Does anybody have any questions about anything specific? I'll try to answer it, or I'll get you the answers if I don't know it.
I don't think everything's been going smooth, so.
So far.
So far, and I don't anticipate it changing, so. No other questions then? Okay, we will move on to our action items. 7A, approve municipal advisory agreement with Northland Securities.
So this is what George mentioned to earlier. That is the municipal advisory agreement. And what that really does is authorize the use of Northland Securities to provide for payment to them of fees for taking us through the process of the bond sale. So what we're looking tonight is just to approve the municipal advisory agreement with Northland Securities.
Any questions, comments? Otherwise, I'll be looking for a motion to approve municipal advisory agreement with Northland Securities.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dave, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Heidi. Any other comments?
Do we have to set the date?
That'll be on the next.
That'll be on the next
Next
one.
one,
Okay,
yeah.
I was just reading. Okay.
Any other comments? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7B, approve resolution 2018-60, issuing bonds.
And that is what George also had said earlier. This provides for the sale of the bonds. We're not actually issuing the bonds at this time. And we have assigned resolution number 2018-62, providing for the competitive negotiated sale of general obligation improvement bonds, Series 2018A.
Okay. Questions? Concerns? Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2018-62, providing for the competitive negotiated sale of general obligation improvement bonds, Series 2018A?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Diane, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. And this is the one we were thinking of August 15th? Okay,
Correct.
all right. Everybody's on the same page on that, okay? Any other comments or questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7C, approve resolution 2018-61, vacating alley.
This action is a follow-up to the public hearing on the vacation of the alley. If the council determines it the best interest of the city to approve the vacation, you should approve the attached resolution. It provides for the payment of costs by the applicant for the preparation of the deed and the recording of it. The resolution also states that a public utility easement over the property will be retained. And as an alternative, because I like to always give you an alternative, we could choose just to vacate the little piece that the garage encroaches over the alley. We have had to do that in the past when we've had opposition to the vacating of the alley. We have not had any opposition to this particular proposal. So what we're looking to it for tonight is to approve Resolution 2018-61, approving the vacation of the public alley.
Questions? Concerns? Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2018-61, approving vacation of public alley?
So moved.
Motion by Dave, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Heidi. And for everybody's information, just to reiterate, we still maintain the easement.
Yep.
Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7D, action on administrative appeal, fence permit.
Okay, the Planning Commission at its regular meeting on July 12th, it heard an appeal on the decision of the city planner or zoning administrator regarding the placement of a fence being constructed on a property and the city right-of-way. The Planning Commission recommends to the City Council that a compromise be reached with the owner, and the appeal is attached. On June 15th, 2018, the owner of property at 421 Ash Street South applied for a fence permit, which was approved by the planner on that date. I did put a copy of the application along with the map layout. The permit was approved that same day. Note that the property lines on that air photo don't line up because when they overlay it, it doesn't always line up. On July 3rd, it was brought to the attention that of the planner that the fence appeared to not meet zoning setbacks along the curb of 5th Street South. A picture was also provided, which is attached. At that time, it was discovered an error had been made in the issuance of the permit. The owner was notified of the error and no further work was completed at that time. Because the fence did not meet setbacks, is actually located in the right-of-way, he was notified that it needed to be moved and located 3 feet behind the property line. In addition, the fence on the north property line appeared not to meet the 3-foot setback. The owner came to City Hall, informed the planner and the administrator that he thought he owned to the curb and stated he had considerable time and expense into the project. He filed an appeal of the planner's direction that the fence be moved to the 3-foot setback. Based on the documentation on file when the city constructed the Ash Street project, it was estimated the property line along 5th Street is actually 16.5 feet behind the curb, so a fence would need to be 19.5 feet behind the curb to meet the setback rather than the 3 feet it currently is. The owner stated it would not be feasible to move the fence back 16 and a half additional feet behind the curb. He has time and expense into the project. He feels the city has some culpability because he feels he did everything right by obtaining advance approval for his project, but he would consider a compromise. But there also happens to be a large tree right on the estimated property line. From a legal standpoint, the city does have a degree of statutory immunity regarding employee errors. However, a legal argument could be made that the owner acted in detrimental reliance on the activity of the employee. The owner does certify by his signature on the application that they've identified all boundaries and he holds the city harmless from liability arising from granting of the permit. So it kind of gives you some information there. We have a couple options that we can do. You can abide strictly by the city code, require the fence to be moved to the required setback. You could authorize reconstruction of the fence on the property line at 0 setback, or the owner's suggestion that a compromise be reached somewhere in the middle via an easement agreement. So basically, we would allow them to be in the right-of-way by an easement agreement, and then it would have to contain language about removal and liability in that. Just for your information, the first post, the first line post, not the corner one, but the first line post into the property is actually 11 feet behind the curb, to kind of give you an idea of how far that is. In addition to one of the above or a modification of one of the above, the owner is requesting monetary reimbursement for his costs. Options could include reimbursement for materials to be removed and new materials purchased. It could be reimbursement for estimated labor, or the city could provide maybe for some removal. So what we're looking for today is a determination of the approved fence location and if there's any monetary reimbursement, if any. Does anybody have any questions first before you really, for any clarification? The Planning Commission did review this at their meeting, and they heard the appeal, and the owner was able to discuss it with them. And he feels he acted in good faith and in reliance on the city. And I realize that when an error is made, that doesn't keep you from having to abide by the code, and that's why it has to come to the city council for your recommendation.
Questions, concerns, comments?
Well, I don't agree that we would give an easement to put a fence in the public right-of-way. That's going to put us down the wrong road forever.
And obviously being that close, I know I can't stay that close to the road because there's absolutely no area for snow removal.
No.
And I know the posts are cemented in, and about the time one of our snow plows clips it with a wing, who's gonna pay for the damage of the snow plow? Who pays for the fence?
Well, I'm concerned with the liability of that sort of thing. We have pedestrians. They
Right.
can walk in the boulevard. Now we make them walk in the street.
Right.
That's not acceptable either.
True. As far as reaching the,
As far as where to put the fence, I don't have a problem with putting the fence on the property line. It's always been my understanding that the setback is required so that you can maintain the backside of the fence. You need access. But if it's up against public property, like the public right-of-way, then you have access. So
right.
additional 3.5 feet is not really necessary. 3 feet isn't necessary.
Anyone else have any other comments?
So then what would be the suggested, if he's got it where it's at now, how far back then are you suggesting he move
Well,
it?
the property line is apparently about 16.5 feet back.
From the curb.
But that's more of an estimate, I suppose. It hasn't actually been surveyed and measured, so.
We based that, we measured off of the survey from when Ash Street was done, and it shows the new curb, or it shows the curb of the road and the property line.
And one of the things that, in discussions too, is that the property stakes from the one that's on the adjoining property, we measured to where they showed another pin that's wider than what his lot is. So when they did the Ash Street project, I got a feeling those pins got moved.
That's certainly possible too.
And without a survey to go by, we're just guessing as far as where the property line actually is.
The property owner to the north, I believe, located one of his pins. And so we were able to measure back from that. But, you're measuring through trees and shrubs and, so it wasn't a real scientific measurement.
Right.
So,
And when the city's been doing measurement in the past to help people find their property lines, it's come back to bite us.
Yep.
You know, that's the reason why we've quit doing that.
You know, it's very possible the pin is there and he just wasn't able to locate it, you know,
Right.
because usually on a project, you know, we try not to disturb them, and if we do, they may be put back. It's just that he wasn't able to find it.
One of the concerns I have too is I think the fence on the north side isn't on a 3-foot setback either. You know,
Okay.
and that's up
Yeah, I'm
against
not
another
sure where
property,
that
that's
is.
against a private property,
Right.
and that one isn't
That
where it's
doesn't have a
supposed to
setback
be
either.
either.
When he came to the meeting, he showed us where his fence is at, and he told us that he's got he gave an extra foot, he's got a 4-foot setback. But we've gone out and measured it since then?
I think what he had said at the meeting was I think he believed he did say there was 3 feet, but when you go out there, I think the neighbor's shed encroaches a foot onto this property. And so his property line is pretty much right in line with that shed. So it's probably a foot onto his property versus the 3 feet. Again, we don't have a survey to be sure of that.
Because he had stated that that portion of the fencing is, that part of his project was almost completely, completed.
That part is
at
done.
that point.
Yeah, the part by the shed is another 2 feet behind his way of the shed, so that piece of the fence probably makes the 3-foot setback. But once he clears the shed, he jogged over and continued the fence up in line with the shed, so thinking maybe that's a foot.
So
But
that
that part of
one's
the fence
basically
is
all
now
along.
completed.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make it seem, make him feel like he did something wrong. He felt like he was doing something that was allowed because he came in, had his measurements set, and it was permitted. And that's where I think that we need to find, it was discussed, that's the first time that it's ever happened that we've had to discuss this. So how do we make it right with him when he thought he was doing everything right?
Which is a valid point. The only thing is, when you look at that, the map that they laid out, if I know this blue line that's not.
It's not exactly right.
You can't
yeah.
exactly right. But if you look where he did his sketch, it shows 3 feet away from the line. Well, it doesn't show a jog around the shed and then bringing it back north on his drawing. It's straight. And basically, that's not part of the site plan.
So you're saying he didn't construct that fence the way he indicated?
Not according to this
the
drawing.
permit was.
Yep,
So
yep.
to me, yeah, you did it in somewhat good faith, but you didn't do it according to what you got the permit for. Because you went and passed the shed back there and jogged over and got on the line.
Yep.
It's probably 3 feet off the line toward the rear of the property, but once you pass that garage, it jumps back 2 feet.
Yep.
So now you're back on the property line. That's a violation of what the permit was for.
Yep. Well, there is another remedy there, as Councilmember Johnson was telling me. The hospital has an easement agreement with the property owner to give them access to the backside of the fence, and it might be possible.
We were going to, but we went with 3 foot.
Went other ways, all right, all right. But it's an option that
But it's
might be
an option,
acceptable, especially
right.
if your neighbor's shed is on your property.
Right.
There
Yeah.
might be some room for negotiation.
So that's not the biggest issue of part of it, but
Yep.
the main is what we're gonna do with that fence that's on the south side of the
Yep.
property.
And-
Another thing, if you ever had a sidewalk on that.
That
Well,
was,
that's the
that
deal.
was
It's,
brought
you
up
know-
at the meeting as well. Yeah.
But even if you don't have a sidewalk, you have pedestrians in the area.
Absolutely.
You can't make them walk in the street by blocking their access.
Right. And if you did even go back to 11 feet off, if you bring in a boulevard and a sidewalk, you're gonna have to remove it.
Yep.
at any point in time,
Well,
it's gonna
and,
be.
you know, if they reconstruct the street, they're gonna wanna put it in the middle of the easement, not off to one side. You know, I wouldn't wanna tell the neighbors on the other side of the street that,
That they're-
well, we're just gonna move the right-of-way kinda your way, you know, to make room for his fence.
Well, we've got kind of three options. I don't know. None of them are gonna be
Painless.
easy or painless decisions.
I have no issues with putting the fence on the property line when it abuts public property. I wouldn't have an issue if that became our new ordinance. You know,
Okay.
that means you can put your fence up against the public right away. You have access to it, so not an issue. Whether that works for him or not is a different issue, but if the rules work for setback and it doesn't work, well, it didn't work.
Right. And his property line is, what was it?
11 feet?
They're estimating that it's, 16 and a half feet back from the curb is the actual property line.
Right, okay.
That may be at a tree. On the other hand, the ordinance
It
would have
could be
said
in the
19 and a
tree.
half feet, in which case it would be behind the tree, and the tree wouldn't be the issue anymore.
Right, right. Any other comments, suggestions? I don't have a problem with, even if he, because the tree would have to go if they ever did a reconstruct on the road. More, maybe,
Well,
maybe
the tree
not.
is,
Is on his property.
it's on his property, and if it's in the way of the fence, well, it would have been in the way of the fence anyway, so.
Right.
Would have to be dealt with. You can build the fence up to the tree, doesn't necessarily have to continue through.
And the-
Anyway, that would be my recommendation for fence location.
Okay,
You know, continuing with monetary compensation, I agree, we agreed to put that there, and I think that because of that, it would be reasonable that the city would, you know, provide in-kind services or some such thing to take out the posts that need to go and to reimburse material expenses for the posts that are being removed so that he can put them where they belong, where they have to be.
and basically all the posts that are along the road can be reused.
He's got
Well, they're in cement, so I
Yeah.
guess I don't know if they can be used or not.
Well, usually they.
If they
you know,
can be pulled out and
If they can be
reused,
pulled
then that's
up,
great.
out and set in, I would think they could be reused, because.
So that's fine, then it's just a matter of replacing posts that are damaged, if any are.
It's like moving a wall. You can move that wall without
Yeah.
taking it completely apart.
Yep.
So,
I did some math, just here's from starters here. He had the planning commission kind of had like a meet in the middle type thing, which would have called removing, being the 11 foot from the curb, that would require removing 11 posts. If we're doing, like Dave is saying, moving it back to the property line, it's 15 posts. So I just did 15 posts, 4 by 4 by 8, the green treated is $13 a post, 3 bags of quick grate in each hole at $5 a bag. And so that's like $195 for posts and $225 for concrete. If you did a labor reimbursement at 1 hour per post, that's 15 hours, and it, you know, so you say that was at $20 an hour, that's another 300. So it comes out to $720 for being, that's rather generous, I think, but it's a number that we can attach a rational,
Yeah.
like not pulled out of the air number.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's a reasonable, not worse than kind of number, because if we can reuse posts, well, then we will.
Yeah.
any other comments? Questions?
No, I kind of agree. As long as it was issued, I feel we should reimburse, but I would still like to be on the property line and not a negotiated space in between those.
I agree with Keith.
One of the things, I don't have a problem with the fence being on the property line. Because like Dave said, it's public property on the other side. So he can maintain that side, no problem. Reimbursement wise, is it up to the taxpayers to pay for someone's mistake at City Hall?
That might be, but truthfully, the taxpayers pay for mistakes at City Hall all the
Well,
time. So
That's possible.
I mean, that is kind of how it
That's
works.
possible. But, it's also, if you look at the site, the permit, there's a violation of the permit. That fence isn't straight on that north side.
Yep.
So why are we paying him and ignoring the fact that he didn't do it the way he was filed a permit for? You know, I
We have,
believe in Minnesota nice, but there's a certain draw on the line here, you know, it's kind of like, okay, I'm gonna get a permit,
Yep.
but I'm gonna add 50 feet onto this and nobody's gonna say nothing because
Well,
I changed my plans.
we can negotiate that kind of a deal because we passed a rule a few years ago that says if you file a site plan and then you deviate from it, you're
Right.
liable to penalties. We approve a
Right.
plan, you're supposed to follow it.
And that's part of the reason why I'm thinking we don't pay anything, just require you to move it back to the property line on that south side. Otherwise, you're gonna move everything.
North side.
Well, the south side, we move that to the property line.
Oh.
Yes, Sarah?
The only thing that I would, during Carter's recommendation, if you would consider requiring a survey, and then if the goal permit, would you consider that null and void?
What?
So no,
She basically said if we would require a survey to get the actual, then the old permit would be null and void.
If we require a survey, the old permit, okay.
She's saying require a survey, void the old permit, require a survey, issue a new permit.
yeah.
Okay. That's fine, I guess it doesn't address the issue that we already issued a permit, and we still have that same situation. I mean, I agree, I asked about that. We don't require a survey for putting a fence, but it's supposed to be 3 feet from your property line. You would think you would need to know where the property line is, not make an educated guess and say, I think it's here.
Right. Yeah.
I know that whenever I've ever purchased property, I always have to have it surveyed before I buy it. No bank will loan money on that unless they know where the property is.
Right. I haven't had that issue.
No.
But I just don't believe in, you know, you violate the permit in the first place and then you ask for forgiveness and we're gonna
Yep.
hand you a check besides. It's kind of, you know, move that fence on the south side up to the property line and after that it's done. You know, we'll let it leave
Yep.
what you got there as long as the neighbor doesn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, the
And
north
if
side
the
can be
prob-
addressed
If the neighbor
otherwise.
comes in and says, hey, I got a problem with him being
Yep.
on the line, then we gotta go again and see if we can't
Yep.
get him to move it again. Because he basically violated the permit.
Well, as I said earlier, you know, they do have the statement on there that they hold us harmless
Right.
for errors, or not for errors, but from actions. They
Right.
don't, on our actions, but, you know, there's the legal side, and then there's kind of the conundrum the planning commission felt like what's really the right thing, or what's the legal thing, and so, you know, you're dealing with people and their property and what they felt they had property rights, and, yeah, we made a mistake. A mistake was made, and, you know, are we culpable for that? You know, maybe not from a legal standpoint, but I don't know. That's what you guys are trying to decide here.
I think that the dollar amount that you gave us for what actually was quoted that they spent is vastly different.
I think what they were mentioning was the entire project, not just, I'm just talking about
Obviously
the
not
part
this
that's in the right of way.
little part, yep.
Yeah.
And they don't have it completed, the dog ear boards aren't on, and none of that is on, so that is salvageable material.
Wow.
I don't think it's an incredible expense, $700 to attach to. I understand your viewpoint, Warren, that it shouldn't be on the taxpayer, but they pay us to make the correct decision, and that was a mistake on our part. And I feel it's only right to offer at least some monetary compensation for it.
Okay?
Yeah, and I guess what I'm saying is really at the most 720. Posts can be reused, and they'll be reused.
Does he want the 720 besides if he can't reuse the poles? Or if you
Well,
can
the o-
reuse the
that-
When
poles,
we talked
is
at the
that-
planning commission, it was like kind of understood that they would not be reusable because you can't, like, you got to dig the hole and there's going to be voids because you're trying to put a clump that, because they dug the hole, put the posts in and poured around the post. So now how are you going to pack new ground up around that irregular clod of concrete?
Yeah,
You
that
know,
would have been my guess.
And so it was
It
like,
can't be
these
reused.
posts that have the concrete are basically garbage, and we're going to start with new posts. That was kind of where the planning commission was thinking.
And that's, I'm not opposed to that necessarily either. We don't necessarily have to pull the post out of the ground. You know, can we not just cut it off at ground level? Assuming that the concrete isn't built up above ground level, but, you know, I don't know what the expense is of pulling it out. But if it's, you know, if it's expensive to pull it out, well, cut it off.
I think we had talked about having the pulling done as an in-kind, which would
Yep.
actually be factored into that 720 as our labor hours.
You put a chain in around take the front end loader in when a chain wrapped around that post, it'll pull out without a problem.
Yeah, I
Because
would
that
guess it'll
concrete
come
hasn't
out,
been in there that long. And the dirt that they had to fill in around it isn't any more packed than it would be if you dug a hole and set that in and put the dirt in around it again to reuse it. You know, so, you know, it's been done. In fact, I've done it, so I kind of know that, you know.
No, I think we could pull them out easily enough.
Right, but the reuse.
The reuse, yeah, I question that.
Can
That's
we-
all right.
It depends
It's not
on how
that
bad
much
it's
money.
marked up.
Yeah, I mean, it's not
Can we
that
set
much
it
money,
not
so-
to exceed cost?
Well, we can, I think we can also just, you know, agree that, yeah, we'll pay the expenses of replacing damaged posts and concrete for the holes that are necessary.
Yeah. The only thing, I suppose, you know, you're not going to get grass to grow where
If we
those
cut 'em off.
concrete
Yeah.
plugs are. if you-
Right, yeah, if we cut them off, you're gonna have those little concrete
Stepping stones.
dimples in there. Yeah.
And the other thing is if whether or not the property was located before all the holes were, we haven't checked the records to
Yeah,
find
we
that
don't know
out.
about that.
And, you know, and you're gonna dig in 11 more poles,
Yep.
you gotta have it locate
Well,
somewhere.
Well,
yeah,
we
I mean, it should have
wouldn't
been a
even
locate.
pull them out, we wouldn't even have the guys go pull them out without first having a locate done. So we're also aware of where those utilities are.
Yeah, and that's a free service.
Hope that there's a locate already, but there may not have been.
Yeah. Well, what's the council's direction? If we pull them out and they're not usable, I think the city should be able to retain ownership of them.
Well, yeah, they would be our posts.
They're our posts,
Because
they're on our
There must be
property.
8 good feet on them after you get them out of there.
Well,
You have to have
yeah,
them
and
pretty
the
tall
street
right
department
now.
could easily use them posts.
Yep. Oh, I guess I would make a motion that we would authorize the reconstruction of the fence on the property line,
Okay?
and that the city would cover the reasonable expenses for material that's damaged and can't be reused. But any damaged material that's being replaced, you know, the new ones become or the
The
old
old
ones will be
ones.
our property.
Okay.
Is there a labor component to that, for their labor, for them putting them in the first place?
Is that something that,
I think I'm not prepared to go that route. We'll be pulling the posts. We'll have some
That's
labor
in
already.
kind.
We're
That'd
already
be-
doing that.
Yeah.
right, but I mean,
They'll be
they're
sinking
looking
some
at
new
getting
ones,
paid
so-
for their labor for putting them back
Yep.
in.
But then
Well,
they,
the only labor component that we'd be paying would be really the cost of putting the new ones in.
Right.
I think I'm okay with the reasonable labor expense for that. I don't know if he hired this or not, so.
I don't know what
I don't
you,
remember if the permit said he was doing it himself or not.
yeah, I think he's doing it
He's doing
himself.
himself.
Okay,
Okay,
so, yeah, either a labor reimbursement or our crew can go over there and drill those holes pretty quick too, I think. We must have the equipment to do that.
yeah. Okay, does everybody understand the motion as far as how he stated that? We kind of bounced around. a
Yeah, I
little
know.
bit on that.
Clarify.
Can you
So,
read it
yeah.
one
And
more
I
time?
don't know if I could
So,
repeat all
yep.
of your points, so if you
So the
wanted
motion
to.
is to authorize the fence on the property line and for the city to pay reasonable expenses for removal of the posts that need to be removed and installation of the new posts. I'm assuming that most of that will be by in-kind. That's not part of the motion, but
Okay,
Okay.
all right. You all heard the motion. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Second by Keith. Any other comments, concerns? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3 in favor, 2 against.
Who was the no votes? You two,
Diane and-
Warren and
yeah.
Diane?
Approve advancement of EMT.
Okay, Mark Roberg has been an EMT with the ambulance department since August 6th of 2008. Prior to becoming an EMT, he was also first responder driver back till July 5th of 2006. In your packet is a recommendation from Ambulance Director Kathy Struford recommending that he be advanced to the EMP Level 3 pay scale effective on his EMT 10-year anniversary date of August 6th, 2018. So our action requested is approve advancement of Mark Roberg to EMT B Level 3 effective August 6th, 2018.
Questions? Comments? Do I have a motion to approve the advancement of Mark Roberg?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Diane. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7F, approve advertisement for Public Works Supervisor position.
I have in your packet for you a preliminary timeline for the position vacancy left by when Matt Zinniel from the Public Works Department, starting with today, July 18th, we would approve the timeline and the wage scale and the advertisement of the position. We would accept applications through August 15th. August 20th through 27th, we'd review and rate the applications using the T&E rating system. Then we would conduct interviews sometime that first week of September, hoping to make a conditional job offer on September 14th with a council action on September 19th, hoping they start in October. So that's kind of the timeline to give us time to be able to review applications and conduct interviews and get everything scheduled and backgrounds, et cetera. So that's kind of the timeline that we had. I also included the job description for your review. A couple of things we want to look at, does the job description reflect the current needs, or do you see any need for amendments, keeping in mind that that was completely revamped 3 years ago when Matt was first hired? Do you feel the timeline is realistic? Do you want to ramp it up quicker, give us more time, or if you think that would work? This type of timeline has worked for us in the past. Should you first consider hiring within, or if there's somebody within that's interested, should they be apply and be interviewed along with the other external candidates? And also the fourth item, should we consider appointment of an interim supervisor from within until a new supervisor were to take the position? So just a couple things to look at there and discuss, and then I would be looking for you to approve the description, timeline, and advertisement.
Okay. We'll handle the first one. Everybody had a chance to look at the job description. Does it reflect the current needs? I don't think it's been too long
Right,
since
it's
we
been so
hired
long
Matt,
that it's
and
out
I
of
think
date,
that
yeah.
it's pretty much up to date and ready to go. Pretty much get general consensus on that.
Yep.
Okay. Is the proposed timeline realistic? I think that's about as
Yeah.
fast as we can
Yeah.
get it done.
As fast as we can go, I guess it kind of depends upon the person's, if they're
Depends on
employed
the
right
number of
now,
applicants and
how long they
Yeah.
have to give notice for.
True. But I think, schedule, I think is, that can always change.
Right.
Yep.
It's all tentative.
But
Okay.
I think October is out there a ways, that's.
Right.
yeah.
Does the council want to consider hiring from within?
Primarily, I'd rather hire it from within.
So would I.
I think we had several applicants the last time around from within.
I think, I kind of like the idea that, the ones that want to, just open it up to anybody.
I think so too.
mainly because, you know, the guys at the end, they got every right to,
Oh, yeah.
apply
Yeah.
for it, but it doesn't limit the job pool, or, you know, the
Yeah,
employee
makes
pool
sense.
from
Yep.
giving more people a chance.
Yep.
'Cause they're-
No,
they're-
I don't
they're-
have a problem with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I say, first consider hiring from within, well, no, but we certainly should consider hiring from within, not necessarily, you know, before we even look at anybody else,
Yeah.
make a decision.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely look at opening it up, right?
Well,
But
realistically.
yes, I mean,
don't
my
think any of
preference
us
is still
have
to
ever had a
hire from
job where
within,
you don't
but
Okay.
Aspire
not to,
to.
not look at anybody else. That's
Go
kind of
further.
putting blinders on.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at, yeah. Okay, any other comments on that one?
No.
Okay. Consider appointment of an interim supervisor.
Don't we already have one with Vicky?
Well,
Yeah, we kind of do.
It's more
If it's-
Vicky than me,
well-
but between
Yeah.
Vicky and I, yeah.
If
you
it's
know.
not too much trouble as it's working out right now, I mean, does it put more pressure on you, or?
I always love taking on more stuff, you know?
Oh,
But
absolutely.
what you're doing currently, the
Tribes.
6:30 on Tuesdays, does seem to be
It
going
seems
okay?
to be. I think there's a lot more communication. It gives them an opportunity to ask me questions as well.
And the feedback that I've been getting from the ones that I've seen and talked to are liking the fact that they actually seem more informed now and
And
up
stuff's
to
getting
date on
done.
what's going
Yeah.
on without having, you know, because if they got questions, Vicky's there, and, you know, every now and then I might pop in and be sitting down there too or whatever, but then that way, if they got questions, we can answer it, and it's not someone saying, well, I don't know yet, and
Yeah.
going that way, and they feel more relaxed, so. I would lean not going with an interim supervisor and, you know,
Yeah, I do, and the other thing is, we may have several applicants from within, and if
Right.
one of them has been named the interim supervisor for the last 10 weeks, it's kind of a leg up, you know?
Yes, yes, exactly.
Now, you had mentioned, Vicky, that you can see problems with your being there for them in the future with scheduling around tasks and stuff like that. Is that going to be a problem in this interim? I mean, till October?
I mean, if I continue to just go down there and meet with,
Yeah.
I don't think so, because we're getting in, I mean, everybody down there knows what needs to be done.
Okay.
You know, they do know what needs to be done. and
Probably
it's-
winter where. it
And,
will
and
start.
my going down there is more not necessarily directing them what to do, but to learn who can I depend on to do those things.
Okay.
And I'm finding them being very good about volunteering to make sure things get done, because they know what needs to be done. And now without someone having to tell them to do it, then they're just doing it, and they're doing a good job, so.
I'm just looking, I don't want to create a ripple effect so it gets worse in the winter because of what we missed in
well, hopefully we have somebody hired by that time.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Right.
hoping,
But, you know, we've been, what, a month?
Yeah.
And things are going well. Another 2 months and we can have someone on board.
Yeah.
You know, I don't see the wheels totally falling off the whole department in 2 months.
You
I
guys
know
meet
that
every
don't
2
happen.
weeks, so,
Right,
yeah.
so. Okay. I think we've got everything discussed on that. Do I have a motion to approve the description, the timeline, and the advertisement?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Heidi. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other comments or questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed. Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7G, approve ordinance 778, amending garage sale ordinance.
The Planning Commission, at its July 12th regular meeting, conducted a public hearing to consider modification of the allowed frequency that one can hold a garage sale on residentially owned property. The commission recommended after the public hearing that the allowed frequency be not more than 4 times per year for a maximum of 3 days each, and that they not be used for the business of resale of new retail items. And in your packet, I have the current definition of garage sale, and then I underlined the new language that they're recommending, and then I struck through the number 6, which currently we have, you can have 6 times a year of no more than 3 days each. And so the Planning Commission is recommending that the City Council approve ordinance 778, amending the city code managing garage sale frequency.
How are we going to police this?
It's not necessarily a matter of replacing it, it's more like when we get complaints that we have
Think
something in
factor.
our ordinance to respond back to.
Okay.
This kind of got brought up because we got a letter in the mail from somebody that was upset with her neighborhood about a frequent garage sale. And had suggested, hey, if you guys have an ordinance, well, we already had an ordinance, but we looked at it and the planning commission felt that maybe 6 times a year, that's 18 days of garage sale, over a summer of 90 days is a lot of garage sale days.
Yeah.
And so really the purpose of it is to try to keep your residential neighborhood from being like a retail business,
Sure.
is really what it is. Are we gonna drive around and count garage sales? No. But if somebody calls us and says, hey, this person is having garage sales every weekend, yeah, then we'll look into it.
Any other comments? My main thing is the enforcement. We, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, who's gonna prove that they did it for 4 times already? You know, unless we drive by it. And then once it even goes through 4 or 5 or 6, who's gonna know
Yep.
what weekends they had it unless we're saving ads out of the paper every week to make sure we can go back? And we've got a lot of codes and ordinances and stuff right now that don't get looked at.
Yeah.
And just to add, we already got this one, and this is the first time I've ever seen it, you know, that we knew about it, and then we're gonna make it more restrictive. If I wanna park my pickup in front of somebody's house every day, I can do it because it's public road. And the only reason I need is because I want to. Not because they got a garage sale and the neighbor doesn't like 3 cars parked there for one after the time period of a garage sale. It's, plus the letter that came in that expressed it wasn't even signed, it was anonymous.
No.
So to me, that,
Well, that's tough to deal with. I don't have a problem with the newer ordinances written here, though. I mean, there is a certain amount of, when does it stop being a garage sale and turn into a home business?
That
You know,
was-
If you start doing it every
yeah.
weekend all summer long, it's really not a garage sale anymore.
And there are some that do.
yeah, and there are some.
And there are some that are doing that.
But when they
yep.
do, when that does happen, how do we know that they did it that way?
Well, yeah, we're gonna end up relying on
On
other
feedback
people
from other
reporting
people
things.
telling us.
But that's a common problem all over.
The summer will be over by the
Yep.
time.
I think, though, that would be easier to police than the frequency. The frequency was changed to be more in line with what a lot of other city ordinances have, which is between 9 and 12 days a year. So this brings us from 18, which was, you know, pretty liberal, down to 12 days per year. But policing that, I understand, would be a lot more difficult than walking up and seeing 20 shampoo bottles with
Yeah,
stickers
Still
still
in
on
the
them.
case and, yeah.
Right.
Right, yeah.
Somebody has shampoo on sale?
I haven't been to a garage sale,
Any
so.
other comments or concerns? What's the council's wishes?
I'll make a motion to approve, to amend the city code,
Okay.
approving this ordinance.
We have a motion by Dave to approve ordinance 778, amending the city code managing garage sale frequency. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Heidi. Any other comments, concerns? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 3 in favor, 2 against. Diane and myself are against. Seven H, approve change order 2018 capital improvement.
We have 2 change orders for this is the project up by the hospital, the 2018 CIP. One, the Public Utilities requested to increase the size of the sanitary pipe from 8-inch to 10-inch on North Main between manholes 5 and 8. That's up by 5th Street up there on Main Street North. And also the addition of a manhole and pipe for connection to the existing Eagles Nest service, which happens right at, kind of across from 5th Street, across Main onto the Eagles Nest. So the total cost of the change order is $4,996.02.
Okay. Questions?
Just clarification, the cost of this change order is totally borne by the PUC, isn't it?
This one would be, yes.
Yep.
Okay, that was my question. I'm glad you brought that up, because if I remember right, the PUC is one of them that didn't think we needed a sewers line in that area, so if they want to pay for it, then they
Yep,
can have
yep,
there.
yep.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Do I have a motion to approve change order number 1 for $4,996.02?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Diane, so a second.
Second.
Second by Dave. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Approve pay request number 2, Breitbach Incorporated.
Steintech has submitted on behalf of Breitbach Construction a pay request number 2 for the 2018 North Improvement Project. The pay request amount is for $207,396.57. Work completed to date is $396,267.38. We did have a previously paid bill of $169,057, and then there, of course, is the 5% retainage. This amount due on this request of $207,396.57 is for the period June 6th through July 8th of 2018.
Questions? Concerns? Do I have a motion to approve pay request number 2 to Breitbach for $207,396.57?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dave. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Heidi. Any other comments? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7J, approve easement amendment center graphics.
Our city attorney, Tom Mayer, is requesting that the city council formally approve the added paragraph to the easement agreement with Center Graphics. The added paragraph outlines what we previously discussed and approved. The 2 items in there is language regarding the storm pond along Main Street. Portions of the pond may encroach into the right-of-way. This has been reviewed by the city engineer, and doesn't affect any utilities, but it's kind of like a public pond, so part of the back slope will be in the right-of-way. The second was language stating that if they ever were to hook up to city sewer along Main Street, that they would do it at their own expense with no additional assessment. If you recall, they came back and wanted us to add it and include it in the project, and the council said no, so now they're saying, down the road, if we ever do hook up for any reason, we'll pay for it ourselves. We just want to make sure that the city doesn't withhold that approval. The language here is in legalese, which was presented. Notwithstanding anything herein to the contrary, the city will, to the extent such does not interfere with existing utilities and roadway improvements, allow Center Graphics to use portions of the utility easement and right-of-way easement for the purpose of constructing the pond along Main Street. It being understood that the pond may be partially located in the said easement area to the extent it does not interfere with utilities as reasonably determined by the city's engineer. So that's the first part. And second, in addition, the city agrees to allow Center Graphics at a later date to install a sanitary sewer stub to the Center Graphics property across Main Street in a location reasonably determined by Center Graphics and reasonably approved by the city. Center Graphics shall be solely responsible for the construction costs of the said sewer stub if installed, and the city agrees that the assessments, as determined by this agreement, shall be the only charges to Center Graphics related to the sewer extension beyond the construction costs. In other words, we already have the easement and the assessment and the deferred assessment. All of that is already agreed upon. They're just saying in the future, if we ever hook up to that sanitary line, that we're not going to backdate assessments, is what I understand it means. And as far as they're wanting to have it at a location where they can do it, there's only a couple spots. Remember, you put the stub in up at the Cates Estates in case this ever happened. You wrapped it around below the Indian Mound, and then the nearest it is then is the stub that goes to the Flowers lot by Fairway Pines. So it doesn't have a lot of options of where he would be able to go, but we did make provisions for that as we did the Cates Estates project. So what this is just kind of puts it legally in the easement agreement. Although you guys have talked about this in the past, the city attorney wanted to make sure the council saw the actual wording. So I guess what I'm just looking today is to affirm that addition of item 16 to the agreement.
Questions? Concerns?
Concern.
Yeah.
This says that the city agrees that the assessment will be the only charges they have related to that extension. I can't support that. I don't know what charges will come up. I agree that the city won't impose any assessments on them, but that's not what this says. Who knows what kind of charges might appear? And suddenly it's, we promised there wouldn't be any. We have to pay for them. You know, if by charges they mean future assessments, then put future assessments in there, not
It says
charges.
it agrees that the assessments as determined by this agreement shall be the only charges related to the extension.
That's not acceptable to me. Right off the bat, I could think, well, what about the sewer access charge? That's a charge, according to this. He doesn't have to pay it. Yep.
That's not a charge to the sewer extension, that's a charge with the building permit, but maybe we can get that last,
But, I mean, it says no other charges, and that's a charge, and it's not for construction. So that needs to be clarified.
It's only related to this extension.
yeah, he's saying the only charge is related to the sewer extension. So I'm just trying, what would be
Right.
acceptable language?
Well, I think if by charges they mean assessments, then the word should be assessments. There'll be no future assessments for this extension. I mean, if that was their
That
intention,
the
then that's
assessments
the
as
word
determined by
used.
this agreement shall be the only assessment related to the sewer extension.
You know, I mean, the description up here says no additional assessment. If that's the intent of it, then it should say no further assessment
Okay, instead of charges.
instead of charges.
Okay.
Everybody understand?
Yeah.
That part of that?
Yep.
And I don't know if it fits into this spot, but I was wondering if they did ever, if it should be in there, if they ever did hook in, because the city gonna be able to, you know, say they wanna extend over to the sewer in the future, are they gonna have the right to dig the street up, or are we gonna require them to bore under it? Because that could be in 2 years all of a sudden.
We discussed a couple of different scenarios, that open cut was not what we intended it to be. You know, on the very north end by the Cates Estates, they could bore under the road and come up on the other side. I understand that they could also bore under the road and come up by the Indian Mound. I don't know, I'd have to ask the engineer, I don't know if you can bore into the manhole by the other, or if they bore all the way under and pull back. I'm not sure how they do, if it would be available to bore into the manhole.
Yeah, that technique could be done. It's a little challenging. I've designed that in the past, but it's not normal to do that. It does talk about that it has to be reasonably approved by us. So we would have, if it's 10 years from now, that might be something. If it was next year, the year after kind of thing, and it's a brand-new road, we may say that's not reasonable to cut into our new roadway. Down the line a few years, perhaps that would be more acceptable. But I think that reasonableness clause in there, to me, it makes it so that we have some control as to how we require them to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think anytime we put in a new road, it is conceivable that next month somebody will be cutting it open for something, you know.
Well,
it
that's what I
happens.
don't want to
Yeah,
happen.
I know, but it happens, so it's hard to say no. I mean,
And the other thing that I came across is if they would go across and hook up, is this language gonna cover us enough that that's not an extension of the sewer? Because it's basically gonna be a main probably going across to wherever they want.
well,
Well, is that considered a sewer extension?
I'm not sure what you're saying they would come across and do if they came up and did, I don't know,
Well, if they
individual
bored
access.
underneath and hooked on
Yeah,
and brought it on, would that be considered a sewer extension? So then we couldn't charge, you know,
well, they're still paying the construction costs.
okay.
I mean, that seems clear in
I'm
here, that
probably
all the
reading
construction
between the
costs are
lines way too
theirs.
much.
And if they hook into the sewer, then that will trigger
A
the
whack.
sewer access charge, so.
Right. Okay. Any other discussion, concerns? Do we have a motion to affirm the addition of item 16 to the easement agreement with the language that Dave wanted changed?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, got a motion by Dave,
I'll second that.
second by Keith. Any other last minute discussion? Concerns? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Unfinished business, 2018 capital improvement project, North Main.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I'll give a brief update on the project. Things are going pretty well at this standpoint. We just had our bi-monthly meeting today, and we missed you, Keith. You weren't there today.
I had the Department of Health there.
So it's your job to bring donuts next time. So that's, so,
I did send a representative, though.
you did send a representative, that was good. One of the big things right now, especially, it's been very dry, is dust control. So we've been working hard on that. Hopefully we'll get a little bit of rain here and there, but it is all sand up there and it dries out quite rapidly. They are, as a minimum, at least twice a day doing watering, and most of the time doing much more than that as needed when it's dry and we get a little bit of wind. So we'll try to keep up, make sure they keep up with that dust control, but that's probably the one thing we're working on. Just so you know, the hospital route, it will be changing actually tomorrow, assuming we don't get all the rain that they're suggesting. And that'll change, whereas 4th and 5th streets will be available to get there as opposed to the other one that they're going up right now. So, and that'll take about 2 days, and then it'll kind of go back the way it was currently. So that will be switching, and that's going to happen a little bit in the next couple months. It's going to kind of be switching back and forth a little bit depending on what road they're working on. So we'll keep in contact with ambulance and the hospital to make sure that everyone's aware of where that's at. One of the other things is with the First Link, with the helicopter landings, we were going to do a test to see if they could land and if there's issues with debris being flown. One problem is they haven't actually opened up the road in those areas, so we don't really have any gravel at this point in time, but they still might do it. Apparently there's some things, and Keith might know better than I.
Turn the rotors
Yeah,
supposedly.
they
so
can
it doesn't-
turn the rotors so that it goes pretty much straight down as opposed to sort of out, and so it's still in the works, but they haven't done that test at this point in time, so that's still being looked at. Just overall progress, Main Street utilities are all complete now. 4th Street, about 50% completion on there. Got probably overall about 5 weeks left of utility work for this particular phase. They are following up with the street works. Curb and gutter on Main Street is actually being string lined probably as we speak. Might be poured tomorrow, but looks like rain, so probably not tomorrow. So that'll be done pretty soon from basically Country Club to the north, and then they'll start working on the earthwork for that south piece of Main Street. So will go, and that'll be about 2 weeks before that south end is done. But as I said, overall, it's pretty well on schedule at this point in time. So any questions on that project?
I just had one other thing on the Main Street. I just wanted to get your recommendation on. We have the street lights that run up the west side of Main there by 5th and 4th in that area. We are going to be running new wire to the lights, and so now's our option if you want to like stagger one across the road, or if you just want to keep them all running up the one side, because we will have the trail on the other side. So, we can just leave them right where they are and rewire them in place, or we have the option of moving one like across. It would be kind of like just south of where Jim Anderson's house is, kind of in that area. So we would have poles staggered. We're not going to add any additional poles. We would just take that pole and move it across the road, and we would run before they pour. So we got a little time here, not a lot of time, but if you're thinking that's just fine on that side, we'll keep it on the sidewalk and not across the street, that's fine too. We just wanted to get your feedback from you on how you felt about that.
Comments?
That's kind of something outside the project that we're doing with the PUC.
Okay, if the sidewalk is on one side, I think the light should be where the sidewalk is.
I think, yeah,
Right.
there'll probably be dark spots in that.
Okay, we'll just leave it like it is. All right, thanks.
Getty Street?
Okay. Getty Street, I don't know if you've been down there at this stage, but the utilities they were just finishing them up today, so if they're not done, it'll be done early tomorrow, assuming it doesn't rain, so the utilities are just about complete. The bottom half of the L, if you will, is got gravel on it already, so that's graded and the gravel placed on that. They'll be doing the rest of the grading, and it's already mostly done, but the north, putting the gravel on the north section of it in the next week. So that'll be done. One of the things that's slowing us down is we're waiting for the gas company to move some services over. There's actually 2 lines there, and they're abandoning one. Unfortunately, that one is where all the services are connected to, so they got to come and reconnect the service from the one line that they're abandoning to the other line so that we can finish that grading, and it'd be on the west side of the roadway, so we can't really finish that. So things are probably going to kind of slow down until we get, it doesn't look like, it could be as much as 2 weeks before they get in there, before we can really make some significant progress. So you might see things kind of slow for the next couple of weeks on Getty Street. So that's kind of where that project's at. Any questions?
Questions? Okay. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
New business, ACH payments.
Just have a couple of things. We now have the ability to make payments via ACH, similar to payroll direct deposit. We make a payment directly to the vendor's account, and they have to sign up for that. It's not like we're, when we ask, if you get bills yourself sometimes, they probably ask you whether they could do a direct ACH payment. So what we're going to be doing is probably be coming forward with a policy to the city council that said this is the policy how we would ask for somebody and what the procedure would be, for security and everything, and able to do that. But more and more vendors are now requesting payment by ACH. There's no check that has to be written. It doesn't have to go in the mail. They don't have to take it to the bank. It just hits their account. And so we get a lot of our money that way now, and now we're turning around potentially paying people that way. So that's something that'll be coming forward once we kind of have some of the guidelines written out.
Okay. 2019 budget.
I put together a little bit of a budget cycle. We're in 2019. The worksheets are being provided to the department heads for completion. They'll be submitted to the finance committee for review. In addition, we'll have the 5-year capital plan, which will be submitted to the operations committee. So we have a couple different committees that'll be meeting. I do have I'm expecting the preliminary budget must be adopted in September. And so I have a preliminary schedule here. The worksheets will all be to the department heads early this next week. I'm asking them to have them back to me by August 6th. And then I'll turn around and get those out to the finance committee and the operations committee, allowing a little time for them to work on it. And then get maybe a budget workshop on August 22nd. I picked that because there's 5 Wednesdays in August, and why waste a good Wednesday? So and then if the budget council or the budget workshop with the full council, then we'll put those numbers in the budget and then come back to the city council meeting. I put September 19th because that's the last date we can do it. Potentially we could do it the first Wednesday in September if the budget workshop goes as planned. So if that's kind of, I'm not asking for approval for anything, just kind of looking, this is kind of the timeline that we're going to be on as we move into budget.
Yeah, Vicki, I got a question. On August 22nd, do you have a time set for that?
I have not at this point.
Okay.
Generally we'll set it like for 5:30 or 5:15. I think we did last year when Warren got off work.
Okay.
So
Okay.
noon is good for me.
It's a possibility. You never know. It's not August yet.
Well, 5 a.m. in the morning works for me.
Same here.
Yeah.
Notice of affidavit of candidacy openings.
This is the notice that we have published in the Herald, and it'll be in, well, actually tomorrow. City of Sauk Center notice of candidate filing period. So this is for the general election that is held in November. This is for the position of mayor and 2 council persons. So we have those 3 positions that are open on the city council. And you can sign up beginning Monday through Friday. Wait a second, what's the date here?
The 31st through the 14th.
Pardon me? Oh, July 31st. I was reading the long paragraph. Beginning July 31st, you can sign up here at City Hall and pay $2 to be on the ballot. So July 31st to August 14th, and that August 14th at 5 p.m. is the deadline. So that is the time frame for anybody that's interested in filing for that. The Criteria that you have to have in order to serve as mayor or city council: you must be eligible to vote in the city at least 30 days prior to the general election. So if you're going to move to the city anytime up till October 7th or whatever, then you can. And you must be 21 by January 2nd of 2019. So that's your prerequisites to be able to serve for the city. So we'll see how many people intend to sign up.
Okay. Consider purchase of property, existing storm pond easement.
I have Gerald Christian. He's the owner of this 2-acre parcel on County 17 and Country Oak Drive. I did attach the aerial view on the next page. We do have a stormwater easement over the westerly half of the lot. Mr. Christian is attempting to sell the lot. However, prospective buyers are concerned with liability and maintenance of the pond. We currently mow it already. He is offering the portion over which the easement exists to the city for $6,000. The city previously considered a $10,000 offer and declined. So that's what I have before you right now, is to look at whether the city would consider a purchase of the back half of that property.
Concerns, comments, questions?
How big of an area are we talking about?
It would be the same part that's the easement area, which is, well, you can see the pond area. There is, it doesn't show on this, but there is a described easement on there. The entire west half of the lot is basically
Yeah,
a
just
stormwater
how
easement.
big is that lot?
It's 2 acres total.
Oh, all right, so it's an acre that we're
Like an
talking
acre,
about.
yeah.
Okay.
We do have a stormwater easement over it already, and so when it was considered before, the council felt that why would we buy it when we have an easement over it already? And that was kind of the thought at that time. He's asking that you reconsider it.
Any other questions?
Is it
comments?
buildable?
No.
No.
Okay.
One of the things is personally, I think it's the same, nothing's changed since the last time it was.
Price is down,
there.
that's all.
You know,
Right.
price is down, we already have an easement on it.
Yeah.
Why would we buy land that we can't do anything with and we're maintaining it already?
Yeah.
If it's a issue about selling his lot, he could easily deed that section to the city.
I was
and
gonna say,
get
if
it off
that's
of
the
there.
issue, yeah,
You know,
it can be given, and then it's
because-
clear.
That would be nice.
So, do I have a motion to consider the purchase of the storm pond or refer it to committee, or what's the council's wishes?
My inclination is to just say no.
Don't
I agree.
Don't really have a wish, no.
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
general consensus, just not look
Okay.
at it.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Takes us to our consent agenda. We have schedule of claims, unpaid claims of $198,911.08 for this total of the same amount. June checks of $585,187.53. We have resolution number 2018-62, accepting contributions of $195.55 from the men's card playing group to be allocated to the senior center, $1,800 from the Sauk Center Rotary Club to be allocated to the shade tree budget, and $228.64 from anonymous donators to be allocated to the dog park. And I want to thank those all those people that donated for their contribution on behalf of the city. Do we have any questions?
Just to make sure that action item 7B in the packet is listed as 2018-62 resolution. So if you sign those, that would be against what the resolution accepting contributions would be. They'd be the same. Just to,
Oh, we have two of those, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions, concerns? Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as
In the
presented?
packet, it says
So
Oh,
62.
all right, yeah. that's
Yeah.
right.
A motion by
Second.
Keith, second by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Informational items.
Just a couple things. Every year, this meeting, we get our demographic update from the state demographer. They're estimating our April 1st, 2017 population is now 4,479 people. And keep in mind, this is always a year behind, because they look at permits and then they make a determination. And the other item that I have is the St. Clair Lewis Days activities that started today at 5 o'clock. So kind of a list for everybody to go through and participate in many of them as you can. And that is all I have.
Any questions on the informational items? That brings us to our end of our agenda. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Heidi, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.